But Somalia, let's start from the beginning, because Somalia, yes, it's a country that's witnessed the 20 years of war, but I mean, things are a little bit changed. So let's have a little bit of optimism where Somalia is going. From the pure security, food security perspective, Somalia, we are not to forget that Somalia has been always a country that has shown a natural deficit in terms of food production, particularly in terms of cereals and in other food commodities. The situation compared to 2011 has indeed improved dramatically. And if you remember, in 2011, at the moment of the declaration of the famine, we are talking of more than 2.3 million people that were in an emergency situation. Thanks to a sustained number of activities, including, of course, the international assistance, these are permitted to reduce the number of the people in very high crisis. As of today, we are still about 1 million, which is extremely high still, but it's more than a half in terms of reduction compared to the 2011. It's very high because the overall population of Somalia is about 7 million people. So if we consider 1 billion people are in crisis, it means that 1 out of 7, they hardly know how to reach the end of the day in terms of food security. In addition to the 1 million people that are in crisis, we do have still 2 million people that are still in an emergency situation, which also require food and other kind of assistance from the international community. This is very important because those people, these 2 million people that I was mentioned, are borderline. They may improve their condition, but they may fall again in a very deep crisis. So the international assistance that has been able to be provided in Somalia, with some difficulties, hiccups that you know is not easy environment to operate inside Somalia, has permitted this dramatic reduction, combined also with good rains, that has permitted also to increase a little bit the production. Nevertheless, the production in general in Somalia is not enough to cover the entire needs of the population. Even in the very good harvesting here, so when you have good rain, no disease of the plants, on the cereals, Somalia is hardly able to produce more than 350,000 metric tons, while the overall requirement for the Somalia population is above 1 million tons. So you have always, even in best season time, you have always a gap of 600,000 tons, about. 600,000 tons, it's a huge amount of food. And these 600,000 tons may be only covered, this gap may be covered either through the commercial import, which is done by the businessmen that are very much used to this kind of business, or by the humanitarian intervention. And humanitarian intervention are particularly important because even if there is an import on the commercial sector, the population in Somalia is extremely poor, and they may not have the enough resources to have the access to the market. So you in Somalia you have a problem of accessibility to the food in terms of production, and you have an accessibility to the food in terms of economic capacity of the people to reach, particularly the children. Malnutrition, you cannot tackle malnutrition of the children with the cereals. You have to provide specialized products in order for the children to recover from the malnutrition. And that has to be important to the humanitarian activities because the people cannot afford to do it. So it's improved, but extremely very fragile. But as of today, I can tell you that we are feeding, on average, about 800,000 people in Somalia. Every single day that they receive a meal in a way or another. We are assisting more than 100,000 school children and girls going to the school. We are providing a number of other incentives for the construction of the roads, the feeder roads, the creation of assets, a number of people that receive hot meals, what we call hot meals, and rather than instead of the free food distribution, we're feeding about 60,000 people every single day that they receive a hot meal, either in Mogadishu or in Kismaayo. We are helping to build dams, to build catchment water, have to have some sort of social infrastructure for the supplementary feeding. What I was telling you before about feeding the malnourished children. It's a huge task that we are doing throughout the country. 800,000 people every day, as I said, more or less, receive a daily ration from WFP. As it stands now, WFP worldwide, in general, buy about over 2 million tons of cereals and food throughout the world from developing countries, from the farmers, which is a huge amount of food. We normally we normally deliver 4 million tons, so 2.5 are locally produced, and mainly out of Africa. Now, the distortion of price, as I was saying at the beginning, Somalia, even when it's at the maximum, as it stands today, is able to produce 350,000 metric tons. And the requirement are 1 million. So I'm going to buy, if I'm going to buy too much, and if I would buy too much, I might distort the market in purchasing. Because the market, the production is not able yet even to satisfy the market. So you may have little pockets where you may have surplus. And this is our intention, to explore this possibility. We signed an agreement about 3 months ago with the Ministry of Agriculture and FAO, exactly following this harvest, to see if there were a possibility to buy from the local farmers. From the local farmers, I repeat, not from the traders, because traders, I mean, by international, I don't need to transit through another layer of the chain, of the supply chain. I need to buy it from the producer themselves. So this is something that we're willing to do. Now, you mentioned the food is going to the market. I would not say that is not impossible, or food, any kind of assistance in general. This has been, and you know, there have been many stories about that in the past. But it's, we need to put all the things in perspective. What I was saying is that 1 million tons requirement, 350,000 tons maximum of production. WFP has imported 90,000 metric tons of cereals, which is very little. So it's not the 90,000 that can distort the market. Also because this 90,000 goes in the hands, I would say in the mouth, if you permit me this expression, of those that they cannot afford it to buy, because they have not the power to buy, even if it's locally produced. Because if they were able to buy on the local market, you would not have this large number of people in crisis or in emergency, or this very high, still very high level of malnutrition amongst the children. So it's very targeted. And we are very much attentive in avoiding to make any food assistance intervention at the moment of the marketing of the crops of the farmers, exactly because we don't want to disturb. On the contrary, we want to help them as much as we can.